Rev up the savings with Festival Foods Gas Rewards. How does it work? Simple. Grab your card in store. Register online. Get points for every grocery run. Then roll up the Quick Trip and watch the prices roll back. Festival Foods Gas Rewards.
A bunch of legendary moments on the NFL draft night. I couldn't help but reminisce, Dario. You probably, actually, I just realized you and I were working right next to each other at last year's draft.
And
right outside the Miller Lite
Oh, yeah,
gate.
we were. Yeah, we were right next to each other.
That's so funny.
You didn't know who I was, and you didn't say hi to me.
No, I didn't say it. Well, first off, you were on TV. That would have been a little difficult to say hello.
First off, you've had this podcast for 4 or 5 years. I was never a guest until, last year, but it's okay. I'm not bitter.
Awkward,
I had a couple of Miller Lights, and we'll always fix that.
Yeah, good. Well, it was good to see you in person. Thanks for having me on the sports show. It only took 2 months for you to invite me over there. Sorry about that.
Touché.
We were just outside the Miller Lite gate for the NFL draft, and I couldn't help but just reminisce about, well, maybe this wasn't allowed, but I was doing radio stuff. You were blocked on TV. You didn't have any downtime. I remember coming in doing a radio hit. Then I ran down and had a Miller Lite or two. Then I came back up and did the radio hit after our first round pick. A little bit more confidently, I'll put it that way, but definitely responsibly. Was it weird watching the draft this year, knowing that you were at Lambeau doing the draft stuff, right? But last year at Lambeau, dude, totally different ballgame.
It was crazy, and we did our pregame show heading into the draft, and we started by showing what happened last year. It wouldn't surprise me if Lambeau gets the draft again real soon. It was legendary.
There's a lot of people that think it's not going to happen in our lifetime. I completely disagree. Man. Green Bay had that thing licked. Other than it was a little oversold. I think they would admit that. There was a lot of local businesses here that were like, geez, that was glad we got 1,000 brats in. We sold 200. There were some things like that because they just weren't sure how it was going to flow at Lambeau. And it, I think, flowed just differently than they had planned. But absolutely legendary either way. And yeah, we just do it better in Pittsburgh. Sorry, man.
Obviously, and Detroit, and Chicago. Duh.
Cheers to legendary moments with Miller Lite. Great taste, 96 calories. Go to MillerLite.com/Inside Wisconsin to find options near you. Or you can pick up some Miller Lite pretty much anywhere they sell beer. It's Miller time. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. 96 calories and 3.2 carbs per 12 ounces.
What's up, guys? We're back again with another A Lot Meats Meat Mondays with Matt. We're going to keep it simple today. Let's make some steak and eggs. Don't forget our tenderloins are still 10% off through Mother's Day. We have our USDA Prime and our signature rings available. Make sure you guys check it out at WisconsinMeatMarket.com.
We want you to do a whole lot more than just save money. We want your money to grow, just like your dreams. We want you to achieve financial well-being and the feelings that go along with that. Capital Credit Union, doing the right thing.
What's up, Wisconsin? I can't even do the hand thing anymore without... Son of a...
Leave that in, please, dear God. I can't even do the beep thing anymore.
Shut up and sit down.
Okay, they'll just create the show open with this. Hi, Wisconsin. Welcome back. Great to see you. How are you? First-time caller, long-time listener. Great topic. Love the show. Trevor Thomas, Dario Melendez, who ruins my life every time we do this. It's the Inside Wisconsin podcast. Here on YouTube, if you're watching, I hope you're not, and listening, wherever you listen to podcasts. You're the boss, huh? Big boss guy at Channel 12.
I'm the boss.
Good to see you. Be the boss.
Good to see you.
Have you seen those videos where these dudes are going through the security at the airport and they get stopped by TSA, but it's all a setup by the family? And they're in line and they're getting searched, and the TSA agent makes them do this, and they start
That's
doing
hilarious. I've not seen that. That's awesome.
Look it up. Look it up.
I have to.
Oh, all right. There's that. What's up, Wisconsin? Welcome back. Good to see you. Let's talk Packers today. And we got a couple of Dario's peeps from the television station in Milwaukee, WISN 12. Dario, you've been at Channel 12 a couple different times, right? Mm-hmm. You were there, then you left for Fox Sports Wisconsin, probably, ESPN, all the things. Mm-hmm. You worked with Steph a long time, and Pat Timlin is actually fairly new to your team, right?
Correct. Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, Jared Fialko, who Pat replaced, moved back to North Carolina, and he was sensational. I didn't know how we were going to replace him. But Pat has been great, and then obviously Steph's been in the market for 20-plus years. So we have really good staff at WISN 12, a staff that just won News Station of the Year. For
and a
like
few
the,
WBA awards
and
in
for
the
like
sports
the umpteenth
department too, right?
time. Yeah. What can I say? We know how to do sports. No, I mean, look, it's a really competitive sports market. So like whenever you because there's so many great sportscasters in Milwaukee. So whenever you are able to win those awards amongst your peers, it's always pretty cool.
That's cool. Well, it's good to have your peers on the show. We talk a little Packers draft, what was, what will be, maybe some behind the scenes, some behind the cheddar curtain stuff, and just the view of Wisconsin sports through a team that covers it on a daily basis. And it's hard to be a fan, but they do root. It's a fun episode with Stephanie Sutton, Pat Timlin, Dario Melendez, myself, Trevor Thomas. It's the Inside Wisconsin podcast. Here we go.
Inside Wisconsin is brought to you by Capital Credit Union, Festival Foods, Miller Lite, Legit Pizza, Amplify Health, and Malat Meats.
The show is supposed to be Packers review, but Stephanie and Pat are on the pod with their boss. I don't know if they're going to tell the truth. This could get really interesting.
I think it's the first time I've ever been called someone's boss.
Yeah.
The boss.
I don't even
Pat
like
Timlin,
saying that. It
Stephanie
feels dirty.
Sutton, Inside Wisconsin pod. Dario Melendez, he's the boss-ish, I guess.
Of no
Thanks
one.
for jumping on, guys. We appreciate it.
Yeah, happy
Thank
to be
you.
on.
Yeah. I'm fortunate to be on with the director of the department,
Oh,
Yes.
not the boss. Got it.
Oh.
All right. All right.
not the boss.
I'm also
no.
Dario's boss at the sports department. I'm the
That's true.
digital sports director. So I'm also a boss in this conversation.
See,
Stephanie's
Trevor,
the
the-
only non-boss.
Trevor, the key about being a boss is making everybody think they're the boss.
This is exactly how I thought this was going to go. All right. So let's, this is awesome. Steph, let's start with you. Real quick, can we learn a little bit about your story as we jump into this so that we give you the rights that you're deserved, because you've been doing this probably longer than any of us.
Yes. Well, thank you for having me on again, Trevor. So let's see. I'm actually in my home, and it's in Brookfield, and I'm a Brookfield native. So I grew up in Wisconsin. I grew up rooting for Wisconsin sports. I remember the 1982 Brewers. I remember having a Robin Young lunchbox. I was in love with Paul Molitor back in 82 when I was, young. But then I went to University of Wisconsin-Madison. And when I went to Madison, it was Barry Alvarez's first year there. So we were horrible. Remember in the 80s, the football was horrible. Well, that went to my freshman year to my senior year. We went to the Rose Bowl. And during that time, I just fell in love. I mean, I always loved sports. I grew up playing tennis. I was a big tennis player growing up, but I love sports. So I knew when I graduated from college, I wanted to do something with sports. So market wise, I was in Jackson, Monroe, Louisiana for a year, covering Louisiana Tech, Grambling University in Northeast Louisiana. Then I jumped to Jackson, Mississippi. And that's where actually back in the day, I covered Donald Driver. I used to shoot him at Alcorn State. So I would go to Mississippi State, Ole Miss. Ole Miss, by the way, if you haven't been to Oxford, it is really awesome. So I covered those sports teams, but then I made the big leap to San Francisco. So I was in the San Francisco market for 3 years. I got to cover the Oakland Raiders in the Super Bowl, the San Francisco Giants in the World Series. I got to cover Barry Bonds' home run chase. But here's the deal. I always wanted to come back home and cover Wisconsin sports and be closer to home. So I've been home since April of 2003. So this is my 23rd year at WISN TV. I grew up, of course, watching Channel 12, so it's pretty cool. And again, I've been through a lot of sports guys in the department. Dario and I, this is our second time around in the Channel 12 sports department. But yeah, I've been covering Wisconsin sports now for more than 2 decades.
It's amazing.
And Steph
Pat,
told me the other week that I'm the best boss she's ever had.
Did I say that?
Doubtful.
I've only really had 2, but yes, in the department.
Which
Pat, how long you been in sports? About 3 months, you think? I mean, you're super duper young.
Yeah, I think if I went back to when I remember my first college football coach, it would not be Barry Alvarez or anything of the sorts. No, but I grew up in the Midwest, went to Northwestern, and really, I grew up going to Northwestern games with my dad. We'd get tickets for $5 because nobody wanted to go. And I think just being that close to the game and you can move all the way up to the field, you grow an appreciation for when you get to see big time athletes and big time stars. So I've been in the industry out of college now for about 4 or 5 years and was able to cover some great athletes in Baton Rouge, Louisiana for 2 years. Saw a national champion in baseball, women's basketball, gymnastics, and a Heisman Trophy winner in Jaden Daniels. So that was a crazy 2-year stretch there. I went to Savannah, Georgia for about a year and change. And there we got to cover some great Georgia football games as well as South Carolina and see all the great talent down there. So I've talked to Brandon Cisse at a camp in Hilton Head, South Carolina. It was funny. Right after we interviewed him in the locker room, I was like, hey, this might sound crazy, but I was at a camp a year ago on a beach in Hilton Head. Do you remember this? And he instantly remembered Coach Payne and all that. So Warren Brinson, I was in his house when he got drafted in Savannah, Georgia, about a year ago this time. So it's funny to now be up here in Milwaukee and to see them thriving in their roles, but also kind of feel like them a little bit, figuring out pro sports and all that stuff. And like them, I've got some great bosses to look up to and ask for advice. So happy to, I've only been doing this for, I guess, 3 months, like you said, Trevor, but on a great team.
It's interesting that you mentioned Brandon Cisse because, Trevor, we did a pregame draft show.
And we lost all the tape of it, so we can't even talk about it anymore. We don't know where it is.
We had to predict who the Packers were going to take with the 52nd overall pick.
Here we go.
Here we go. I was going to say,
Steph with a wide receiver who should have been a first rounder. So, okay, it was a good pick. Pat went with the DN who also should have been a first rounder. I'm like, you know what? I heard this Brandon Cisse guy is pretty good. For some reason, I think he's going to drop. And with the 52nd overall pick, who did the Packers take? Brandon Cisse.
Yeah, and
I want to know how many times you copied and pasted that text because I got it. I'm sure 73 other people got it.
We had a text chain going throughout the night, and I think Steph, your guy, went off the board first. I'm like, oh, that's one off, and then Pat goes off, and then mine gets picked, and they had us in the suite level for the draft at Lambeau. And I screamed when I got picked. I had to look around to make sure no one was watching. That was funny. But yeah, that was awesome.
You were spot on, Dario.
What can I say?
It fell. The best player on the board fell to your pick, Dario. The Packers.
That's
when the pick was made, I remember muting the group chat. So that's kind of all I remember about the rest of that.
All right, so let's just jump into the picks then. I mean, we on the Inside Wisconsin podcast, when I was doing the show with John Anderson from ESPN, who we all know and love, we always did a draft preview episode. Well, now that Dario and I are doing this together, I wanted this episode to last longer in terms of relevancy, and that's hard when you don't know who's going to be picked. So the picks are in. We all know who the 6 were that the Packers took, and it started with Brandon Cisse, but that's not where it ended. Ironically, it ended with the kicker. How do all of us look at this and go, what? 6 picks? Like maybe we start there. Only 6 picks?
I do think that's kind of crazy. Isn't it the most or the least amount in 20 some years for the Packers? Definitely the least for Goody in quite some time. I'm shocked they only went with 6, but then again, then you can bring in more, I guess, undrafted players in and test the waters with them and see what they can do. So, but 6 was a little surprising for me.
Yeah, I think the draft itself was just kind of slim pickings. So rather than waste times waiting for your guy to fall down, I mean, you saw they made a couple moves to go up and burn some picks that normally we would see the Packers kind of treasuring those. I think it kind of played out exactly like they wanted it to, and they got their guys and kind of called it a day early.
Yeah, quality over quantity, right? I mean, Pat kind of mentioned it. I wouldn't call this the strongest draft in the world. So you had a couple targets. You had offensive line you needed to address. You had defensive tackle you needed to address, cornerback, edge rusher, and the Packers did all that. They had a checkbox. And they checked each one as they went. And even, to be honest, the surprising one to me was kicker because they picked up Brandon McManus's $1 million option the month before. So either you wasted $1 million or you brought in a guy who just wants to compete with McManus because you don't usually keep 2 kickers on the roster. But I mean, look, I thought Goody did a really good job. I think most draft grades gave him like a B+, B-, and that's without a first round pick. So it was I thought it was a solid draft for the Packers.
Well, Jerry, you brought up the kicker real quick. Trey Smack, that is probably one of the greatest kicking names
well, first
of
off,
all time.
They just better not drop the ball like they did with HaHa. Like when HaHa was on the team, they should have had the HaHa play every time he did something. The Nelson from Simpsons. If they don't play Smack That T-Pain song, anytime he gets a field goal or steps on the field, like his walk-on music, I'm boycotting.
And he's a Florida Gator from the SEC.
Oh my gosh.
You know this guy can kick, but the problem is, can he kick up in the cold weather? That would be
There's
my
that.
biggest concern right now. Like, come on, he's played in Gainesville where it's 100 degrees for every game in the SEC, and you're going to come up here. So this should be interesting.
Her husband's a Florida alum.
He is Florida Gator.
Let's just put that out there.
And so is
Gator
our news director too, Dario. So we got to point
Oh,
that
that's
out.
true. Yes, actually, I love this pick now.
Yes.
This is the best pick of all time.
Oh, the real boss. Got it. That's
Right,
now it
the
all
real
comes
boss.
together. Now it all comes together. When you guys are covering the Packers the way you do, and Pat, we were just on the Big 12 Sports Saturday show last weekend. You were in the locker room, and Steph, I know all of you have been there. I've been there too. Is it interesting to see these rooks come in and just take it all in and be almost in awe of what they were looking at? Because I guess it's not old hat. I never take it for granted when I get to go inside the locker room. But for these guys, like big, wide-eyed and kids in candy stores, you know?
Yeah, I think I saw it firsthand. The Packers even put out a video of them giving the guys like cheeseheads. You could see media members in the background. We watched it. There was no like fake in those reactions. It was all real vibes, and watching them kind of go through it and kind of reminds you of what it's like that we maybe take for granted sometimes. Walking around Lambeau Field with nobody else there and just being able to sit in the suite waiting for draft picks to be made. And to see these kids who, I mean, they've worked for months for this moment, right? And to now reap some of the rewards and have your own photo and your name and a locker inside a place like Lambeau Field, and to get yelled at to run faster. I don't know, maybe it makes you want to do those things a little bit more. And it was nice to kind of like feel it, and it was almost contagious in a way.
Yeah, I loved it. I mean, I always love the first rookie camp because they all look wide-eyed. Look, a couple of years ago when Rodgers was here, everybody looked like they were a deer in the headlights because you obviously have the playbook, which I don't know if you guys remember, the playbook leaked a couple of years ago. So I have a leaked copy, and it's like this thick. So when you had Rodgers, you had the playbook, then you had all the hand signals, which was like 250 hand signals. But yeah, I always love seeing when the rookies are in the building for the first time. Because I mean, Steph, I know you've seen this as well. Like, they're all super excited, but there's such a nervous energy because they have so much to go over in a 3-4 month span, and it could be overwhelming. And I know a lot of the receivers have talked about that in the past.
I was kind of disappointed Pat was there. It was the rookie camp on Friday. I didn't get to go this year because the guy with my last name, Dennis Sutton, I thought the coolest moment is how he was shaking the hands of every reporter. I mean, that's pretty classy. I mean, that's, a stand-up guy right there getting to know everyone's names. Now, he's not probably going to remember everyone's names, but I was bummed I was not there in that moment because I just so badly want to be like, I'm a Sutton too. And I'm excited to hear his name called. If he actually makes it, stays on the roster and makes it, which I'm pretty sure he will be. But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
To see Sutton with the tackle. But I thought that was kind of different and cool because, as you mentioned, you guys, they're, wide-eyed and like overwhelmed in that situation. I thought he kind of handled it like a pro, like a veteran in that moment, at least in the locker room situation. That was pretty cool.
Trevor, we talked about our group chat. As soon as Dennis Sutton got drafted, I'm like, we have another one of these in the state.
Right.
We already have too many Suttons, but at least as Steph mentioned, this one's finally bringing some class to the state.
Oh, there's not
with the
enough
nice
Suttons in
handshakes.
this state. Always room for another Sutton, Dario. Always room.
Yeah.
Something
I was
I'll
telling-
add that we didn't maybe touch on that you didn't see. These guys were playing ping pong pretty intensely. And I think it was kind of like a coping mechanism. Like, all right, we don't know where we are, but there's a ping pong table. I know how to play this. And I know that you also don't know what's going on. Let's just play ping. So there's a guys playing ping pong for a good 30 minutes while we're walking around the locker room in interviews. And I thought that was an interesting thing to kind of maybe distract themselves and find some normalcy in a crazy day in their lives.
Dario, you brought up the playbook. When Christian Watson was a rookie, it was one of Rodgers' last seasons. There's something called the Green Bay Packers Chamber of Commerce Welcome Back Luncheon that they do in the atrium. I was there that year. Watson sat at my table, and I asked him how it's going learning the plays. And he said, which playbook? The Packers, Matt's, or Aaron's? Are they running into that again now with Jordan Love doing different stuff with the rookies, or is it all Matt's playbook?
I think Jordan Love has the ability to be as good as Aaron Rodgers. I think Aaron Rodgers had a lot more weapons around him. I mean, you just outside of Tucker Kraft and Christian Watson when he's healthy, I mean, Donald Driver, Greg Jennings, I should say, Jordy Nelson, Devontae Adams. Like, the Packers haven't had that with Jordan Love. But Love's not that's not really his personality. Like, he likes what Matt LaFleur calls. He kind of sticks to the playbook. He has the free will and free range to change any play he wants to, but he understands the concepts. Like, if you change a route, that changes the entire concept of the play. So he likes what Matt LaFleur does. He trusts what he does. He will make adjustments every now and then. Like, you'll see, like, Romeo Dobbs was his guy. That's why I think it's going to be interesting to see if Golden can kind of take over as that, well, I'm going to change your route guy. But I don't really see that as much with Love that I did with Rodgers. Rodgers thought he was an offensive coordinator. Love thinks he's a really good quarterback.
Rogers thought he was an offensive coordinator, amongst other things, but I digress.
Yeah, and the GM and everything else.
Yeah.
I would agree with Dario. I would say Jordan Love plays by the book when it comes to the playbook. Yeah,
Get it?
got it. So yeah, I don't think he's going to veer off much from what Matt LaFleur wants him to do when he's out there. And he's obviously gaining more and more confidence each and every season. You just want a healthy Jordan Love, though. That's what you want. You want a healthy Jordan Love for all the games during the regular season, leading into the postseason. And, I would like to see a Packer team like that. And for our purposes, Dario and Pat and I, the Super Bowl is on our air this year on WISN ABC.
First time in like 23 years.
We would love nothing more than for the Packers to make it all the way to the Super Bowl this year, because our station, of course, would be all over it.
Yeah, it's interesting having
Bills, y'all.
It's interesting having all three of you from one TV station on the pod at the same time, because Dario talks a lot about how covering sports and working in sports has taken the fan out of sports. Pat, I'll start with you on this one. Since you're the youngest in the group here, are you still
Pat's
a
too
sports
young.
fan?
He's 100% still a sports fan. It's an annoying sports fan. That's the thing.
Yeah,
Like,
I go to games on my off days. I don't know if Dario's out here doing
you
that.
go to games of teams that you're not even a fan of.
I love it.
He swears he's a North Sider, but he grew up on the South Side.
Look, I enjoy any baseball game, any stadium, as long as there's cold beverages and some good food to snack on. I still enjoy it. I think the thing that's becoming harder is to be like a casual sports fan, right? To like know what's going on elsewhere in sports as much as you know what's going on in your own home state. And a lot of that is like we're being fed things that we like to see and not things that we don't see commonly. And I think it's hard to know like what's going on in the NFL and maybe the NFC West. Whereas like 10 years ago, I feel like I could rattle off everything that was going wrong over there. So it's just more being like a tunneled sports fan. And I think when you're someone like Steph, who's seen a lot in this area for 23 years, maybe you get over it sometimes. I don't know. I feel like I'm still wide-eyed and enjoying a lot of it, but it's much more pointed to where I'm at in life right now.
Well, Steph, I think there's a difference like between fan and a team you're rooting for, right? Like, I'm not a fan of any team I cover because fan is, I always say this, short for fanatic. If the Packers lose, it stinks, but like I'm not sad about it.
Correct. We kind of become desensitized to it. If they, it does stink the way they lost to the Bears in the postseason this year. But
yeah, Pat.
Within one day, yeah, I suppose Pat was very happy about it. But you just kind of move on, you move forward, you go to the next story, you go to the next. Then you're like, okay, what are the Milwaukee Admirals doing? What are the Milwaukee Bucks doing? You kind of just move on to the next, professional team, college team, or a high school athlete, and you figure out what you're going to do next. I will say this too, because Dario and I both have kids. I think too, as you get older and you have your kids and they're involved with sports, or my kids are also involved with theater, honestly, Dario, would you not agree with me? Sometimes, like, I would rather see, my son catch a touchdown pass in a high school football game than honestly
for sure.
go cover a Packer. I mean, there's just a different feeling to it. I know Dario had that with his son last year when they were in the state playoffs. I mean, it's just a different feeling. You do come a little desensitized to it. Now, with that being said, it is way more fun covering a team that is winning. I mean, I can remember back in the day, I was, as I mentioned, when I was in San Francisco, I was in the locker room after the Raiders lost the Super Bowl to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and you could hear a pin drop. Same thing with the World Series. They lost to the Angels that year, the San Francisco Giants. So it was like you could hear a pin drop. It does stink when they do lose, but you know what? You do kind of move on. I mean, you just got to go on to the next. Doesn't mean I don't love seeing sports and covering sports and watching sports, but I will say for my family and my purposes, a lot of times we're sitting right over there on our couch. We're just watching it from our home. I mean, we don't even, we don't make even the trek out to AmFam very much or a Bucks game very much because we just like to watch it from home too.
I will say, Trev, I'm a fan of like covering cool things, right? Like, so the good thing about being in Wisconsin is outside of this year, the Bucks are usually good. The Packers are always good. The Brewers are good the last decade. So because they're good, we get to cover cool things. Like we get to cover the NLCS, we get to cover playoff runs, we get to cover Eastern Conference Finals appearances. Like that's the type of stuff we get to do. That's cool. But we have 2 major Division I programs, 3 professional teams, an AHL team. When one season ends, the other season's happening. So we don't really have time to sulk. Like if I were to act like a normal fan, which is why we're in this business, which is what we love, that fans are passionate, especially in this state. But if I'm acting like a fan because the Packers lost to the Bears, how do I do my job in the locker room? Right? Like, how do you go in the locker room and talk to these guys who are already upset, who are already like peed off? Like, McManus, bro, what are you doing, man? Like, you just cost my team a chance to go to Seattle because you can't make a field goal, you stupid person. Am I supposed to like act like that? No, you can't do that, obviously.
Yeah.
So it's just it stinks because you get into this business because you like that kind of passion, you like being a fan, but you also it's your job, so you can't really fan out like that.
So working in the business, you get to see and cover cool stuff. Dario and I have kind of coined a phrase, behind the cheddar curtain. So in Wisconsin sports, we all get to see things that our viewers and listeners don't get to see. What are some of your favorite stories in this whole let's take a peek behind the cheddar curtain thing?
Favorite stories. Oh, well, I got one when I was pregnant with Kabir Bajabiamila. I'm in the locker room, probably 7 months pregnant, and he's like, "Whoa, lady, you look like you're gonna pop." He literally got like behind me and started calling like Blue 43 or whatever he was doing. It was like, oh my God, this is so embarrassing. Like, I've had weird moments like that being a female sports reporter and, having children. So that was interesting. I don't know if that's the moment you were actually hoping to hear from Trevor, but that's
way
one
to bring
that
us down,
stands
Steph.
out. No, but
way to
was,
show
I
the
just remember
misogyny in
him.
sports.
Now Kabir has like 10 kids, so yeah, it was more of a funny moment. But I was like, oh my God, I'm so embarrassed in this moment. But I do remember that moment in the locker room. You deal with stuff like that. Okay, Pat, take us a different direction. But that's one of the moments that stands out for me.
Yeah, no, I was like, okay, I've only been here like 5 months. This shouldn't be too hard. There's not any memories, but I don't know how to follow up that one, Steph.
Well, the ping pong one was a good one.
Yeah, I mean, I like seeing them just play. I'm trying to think of, there's fun moments in like a Doc Rivers press conference where like, sure, you can watch it and you can see everything that's going on, but you don't see the mics moving around the room. And I'm new in the area. I don't really feel as comfortable to interrupt maybe Jim or Eric Name when they're actually asking real basketball questions, to ask questions that, our bosses would like us to ask because they're popular topics online. And I had a fun moment where I was asking Doc Rivers about maybe, okay, is Memphis and Milwaukee getting a bad rap from LeBron James? Like, and they're asking him questions about him getting inducted to the Hall of Fame because that was announced that day. And those are questions that need to be asked. They should be asked. That's the news of the day. But I almost got in front of Steve, the AP writer here, and asked a question when he clearly had another thing to ask about the Hall of Fame. And I'm watching the eyes of the moderators be like, Pat, go ahead. And I'm like, no, let's let Steve get his question in before I kind of take this off the rails. And of course, Doc, who's got 2 weeks left on his timer, has no care in the world what he says and is happy to suggest that Milwaukee should trade for LeBron James. So, that's a moment where people can see what's going on, but I'll peel back the curtain. Inwardly, I'm fighting a lot of things and thoughts in my head to get, thankfully, a great response from Doc, who is probably enjoying a golf course right now while we're talking on this podcast.
And actually, to go off of that, and Dario knows too, and Pat, I like to ask out of left field questions. I've done that my whole career. I like to do that I've done it with Aaron Rodgers. I've done it with Giannis. And, it's fun to ask not just the X's and O's. I think that is what's kind of fun. And I think actually it's not just me. I think it's our whole department. I know Dario's done it too. Dario last year during the Brewer playoffs, he asked about the Pfister Hotel and ghosts. And of course, the question that he asked, it goes viral because the answer to that question. I think those are kind of fun, interesting ways to get, I guess, viewers involved or, wanting to see what we have to say or whatever. But I think those are kind of neat things behind the scenes to ask something that, not your typical sportscaster or sports writer would ask.
Those are the moments that we actually love talking about the most. That's why we call it behind the cheddar curtain. There's so many people that watch us or listen to us on the radio or TV and don't see the things that we do. There was one moment where it was Breno Giacomini. Do you guys remember that name?
I do.
Yeah, vaguely.
Offensive lineman, played at Louisville.
Oh,
Actually was in the same draft class as Brian Braum. And I had just moved to the area. I was just as young as these guys. I got to know a few of them personally. I was with Breno when he got signed to go to Seattle. He was on the Packers practice squad. He got signed to go to Seattle. And I went and helped him clean out his locker. And we went through the player entrance. That stuff is something I wish everyone could get to see, because the way we view them on the field is one thing, and in the locker room it's something different. But walking through that entrance, which none of us get to walk through that entrance on any regular type of day, they see things that motivate them as a Green Bay Packer that we would never know about.
Yeah, no, I mean, I was very fortunate when I was on the Brewers and Bucks beat that I got to travel on the team plane. They used to have beat writers do that all the time, but they stopped. But it was always cool. They were opposite. So, like, Bucks playing, players sat in the front, media in the back. Brewers, coaches, media in the front, players in the back. So it was always fun, like, walking on the Bucks and, like, seeing Giannis and Brooke and TA, like, playing cards, and Giannis always losing. Like, always losing. I could always hear him complaining about it. And then Bud, who is like a wine connoisseur, had like 3 or 4 bottles of wine like ready to go, because that was like his thing. Where Wade Miley would always bring 2 boxes of boxed wine, and the goal was to finish it before you landed. Now, like, look, if you're going to Cali, it's great, but like that hour flight to St. Louis, it's like, okay, this is gonna be a rowdy time when we land. But yeah, no, it's always cool, like, kind of getting to see what people don't see, but then it's also, and I know you guys probably tested this, like, being okay telling some of those stories, because like I have some stories that I can't tell, but I was able to like kind of use as like backfiller. Like if I'm saying a guy's close to coming back, it's because I've seen something, but I can't really tell you I've seen that, or vice versa. Or if I think there's going to be like, now that he's gone, Serge Ibaka was going to be gone. And I know that because when he had COVID, they put him right next to me on the team plane. And I'm like, why is Serge, because again, players and media sit differently. So like, why is Serge here with a mask on by himself? I'm like, oh crap, this guy has COVID and they're going to give me COVID. So, because they don't give a crap about me. But I can't say that because that would be too behind the curtain. But I could say, hey, Serge might be done for a while. Stuff like that.
You could say he was separated from the team. I mean, he was sitting at the back of the plane with you, clearly. He was,
yeah.
You know.
Hey, man, some might say I'm the ultimate team player. No one would say that.
Not from this team, I don't think. That's
yeah, exactly. Not this team at all.
So as we wrap this up, the WISN sports team, let's go back to the Packers. It's pretty obvious that Goody and Matt LaFleur, and even at some level Ed Policy, thought they had the right team in place last year. Only 6 draft picks, and 26% of the team left in free agency or contracts or whatever. The majority of the people that were on the team last year, plus these picks, plus who knows, undrafted free agents, right? Does this outlook for this Green Bay Packers team feel for you guys like it does for me? This could be really fun.
They had the right team. One guy got hurt. His name was Micah Parsons. If Micah Parsons doesn't get hurt, this Packers team could make a legit run. I mean, you look at, they went 0-5 without him when he got hurt. I think they were like 1-7 without him. I mean, Micah Parsons was why they traded 2 first-round picks, and he was the closer of games. We saw it in Detroit when the Lions were trying to drive. He came up with big sacks. Like, this team was really good last year. Tucker Kraft injury stinks. Like, look, injuries happen, but they had so many. Elton Jenkins, Kraft, Wyatt, Micah Parsons. I mean, they had some really bad injuries to positions of massive contribution. But Micah Parsons was the deal. So, like, if he comes back week 3, 4, and is healthy, this team's going to be great.
I agree with that, Dario. I mean, as long as you have a healthy Jordan Love, you need a healthy Jordan Love. You need him to lead this team. And you need the leader on defense, which obviously, as you just mentioned, it is Micah Parsons. So as long as you have those two healthy, and again, if Parsons does come back within that first month, that gives you plenty of time to make that playoff push again. I mean, think about it. They came this close to advancing to Seattle and in the postseason this past season. So I have a really good feeling. And I think you've got to trust in Goody, right? I mean, he always kind of gets them there. They just got to get over that hump again. I still can't believe it's been this long. It's been a while since they won a Super Bowl, their last Super Bowl. So I feel like this is sort of the year. Again, I bring up ABC. The Super Bowl's on WISN this year. This would be the perfect year for the Packers and Jordan Love and company kind of get their act together and push forward and get to that Super Bowl, finally break through that barrier.
Yeah, I think they admitted that the roster was not as much as a problem as some other things that were limiting them in success and winning games. I think if you think about both those games in Chicago, special teams cost them, whether those missed field goals or not being able to field an onside kick. They lost the game of the Panthers where, Micah Parsons wasn't hurt yet. There was losses along the way where you question what was going on here. And I think that was a lot of the reason why, Matt LaFleur was under scrutiny, coaching wise. Well, what did? They went out and got a new special teams coordinator, someone who was a coordinator before, lost his role, and is probably coming here hungry to install something great. They also got a guy in Jonathan Gannon, who I think if you look at him, the best case scenario is he turns out like his predecessor in Arizona, Cliff Kingsbury, who lost his head coaching job, did a year of analyst, and then was a great offensive coordinator in Washington and led them to the playoffs. Maybe Gannon, when you take away the head coaching responsibilities, can lock in on the defense. And I think something that they all said recently was that they're kind of going back down to basics and fundamentals as coaches. That's what Adam Stenavich and Gannon kind of went over on Monday. And I think if you do those things with the roster that's the same, they admitted, like you said, Trevor, they didn't need to add much. But if they're going to change the way they go about trying to win and close out these games, I think that's probably the best thing. Because once they're healthy and they have this roster that's shown it can succeed, playing consistently and with the same drive and principles every game is probably going to make a bigger difference than adding another 6th rounder or 5th rounder in this past draft class.
Yeah, but it's going to be health, right? Like not having Wyatt in that Panthers game, Panthers ran all over him.
Right.
I mean, that was like the huge thing. And not having Micah Parsons in the Bears game couldn't close out. That's why Caleb Williams had 17,000 hours to throw a ball. I mean,
maybe Jeff Hafley's thinking about a new head coaching job, and that's why they couldn't close out on defense when they're up by.
Jeff Hafley's going to have another job soon because going to the Dolphins is like the knife in your career. I get. You want to be a head coach?
Don't say that
Great.
to Malik Willis.
Look. You never turn down the money, but as someone who grew up a Dolphins fan, those are the worst positions to be in. Like they're set up to fail. Like who's Malik Willis going to throw to?
Nobody this year.
Nobody.
He's going to hand the ball off to A-Chain as much as he can.
There's talk that might trade A-Chain. Like, so it's like you want your opportunity, but it's almost like you have to be selective with it, which sounds weird. I don't know if the Dolphins is the right opportunity for anybody at this point. It's like the Jets. Who wants to be the Jets quarterback except for some guy who thought he knew what he was going to do, and the Jets agreed to bring all of his friends with them. But I digress.
And that did not work out too well. Yeah.
Not at all. It worked out like 5 minutes.
Yeah, and it looks like the Cardinals might not be a good job either, but don't tell that to Matt LaFleur's brother. Who knows what's going to happen.
The Cardinals, look, you don't say no. I mean,
right.
you don't say no, right? But like, they're not good jobs. They're jobs that like get head coach on your resume, and then it's jobs that get fired as head coach on your resume.
And meanwhile, in Green Bay, there's no owner, a head coach, a GM, a director of football operations, whatever Russ Ball's title is, and a team that could very well be it. It's great to get insight from all of you guys. Dario, you're here with me every time, but Steph, Tim, we appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Trevor. Thanks, guys.
Appreciate it.
Well, I bet that was fun for you, doing a pod with your coworkers.
I'm just glad none of my secrets got out. They were well behaved. They were well behaved because I run a really tight ship at WISN 12.
I should have worded my behind the cheddar curtain question better.
Tell me your dirt on Dario.
Yeah,
that's a great segment. Dario's dirt.
Dario's dirt. Is this a debut of Dario's dirt right now?
Maybe. Sponsored
pull
by.
Out your hat there.
Yeah, exactly. Right. More hair.
Please share. Thank you. So we do have a new segment, and we always try really hard to give a behind the scenes story. I'm trying to think. Last time we did this, you gave a story about gymnastics. I've got one. I think I mentioned this. My 16-year-old just got his license. That, yeah, is a terrifying deal, dude. Like, all we ask is that you text us when you get there. Is that too much? Like,
yeah,
hey,
for sure.
arrive.
That's what. First off, you're a dumb parent if you think that your kid needs to text you. He's free now, right? Like he
True.
has his license, he has freedom. He paid for his car. I bet he pays for all of his gas. I bet. Oh wait, probably doesn't. Right? Right? Yeah.
No, he didn't pay for his car. We gave him a hand-me-down, but he does pay
that's
for
what
his
I'm
insurance.
saying.
He pays
Okay.
for his gas. He is free. Maybe I just, you know what? A little heads up from a parent that's already been through this. That would have
It
said,
doesn't
you
get
know, it flips overnight. I didn't see that coming.
Yeah. I mean, when my son got his last year, and look, he's pretty responsible. His biggest thing is like he and his buddies on Friday night will make Taco Bell runs. They think that's like the coolest thing in the world. Which again, if you're gonna bring me a Crunchwrap Supreme, for sure, bro. go do you.
There's that.
But
Imagine
with
if our parents, Dario, had Life 360 when we were growing up.
Oh my gosh. No.
Well, go Pack Go. It's going to be a fun season with these new draft picks. Our thanks to Steph and Tim from your world, WISN 12 in Milwaukee, for jumping on and helping us tell that story, some behind the chair curtain stories, and not nearly enough dirt on Dario. Next time.
Inside Wisconsin is brought to you by Capital Credit Union, Festival Foods, Miller Lite, Legit Pizza, Amplify Health, and Malat Meats.